chopping everything. Golly. Who won?
We won what?
There's no winner?
The boys won.
Got him.
Get him again.
What? Oh, wow. Look at that. Is that DNA? You can tell I used to play paper footballs. And would you look at that? Would you look at that? All right. How is everybody? I gotta flick one more. I gotta do it one more. Back row. This is the field goal to win the Super Bowl. Where'd it go? Ah, totally lost. Spank. Man, that was fun. Yeah, I look over and Noah's just eating the marshmallows.
It's that. Everyone's like, second round goes, best play.
This is why we can't have nice things, Seth.
Fine, I'll go, I guess.
I actually cut them though. I cut them. After you missed my with toothpaste, like it's a shame.
What is this for? Oh, okay. Okie dokie. You like that? I'm all like, I went from bare bones last week to just like mechanized. We're gonna get one of them fancy in-ear ones someday.
Hey ladies, I recommend maybe not sitting like that.
Yeah. Please don't sit like that. Would y'all pull up another chair?
Yeah, like me.
See, the back row is why they had to put cameras on school buses. Because of the 90s kids like me and Bob throwing stuff out the window. Right, Bob? Right?
What is this emergency button?
Yeah. Nothing. Put it back. I might be teaching you something wrong, but if you pull a red emergency button on a window, all it does is buzz. Just push it back. That's it. That little lever allows the window to be opened from the outside. Do you know that? I used to work on school buses. That's why I know that. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the back door handle. You pull the back door handle, it goes, you close it and it stops. Doesn't do anything. Okay. Moving on. That was a good transition, right?
Yeah, totally.
All right, this is how we start our talk. Asim. This is the definition. Who wants to read it?
What is reading?
Read it. Shh. You want to read it? Yeah. Seth, read it. Read it.
Jay said he wanted to, I thought.
Jaden, read it.
Forgiveness, letting go of negative feelings we have towards someone who has hurt, harmed, or disappointed us.
There we go. Letting go, getting rid of negative feelings we have towards someone who has hurt, harmed, or disappointed us. Unforgiveness is the opposite of that, right? You could just simply put holding on to negative feelings you have towards someone who has hurt, right? Pretty simple. Okay. We've all had somebody hurt us in our life, right? Sometimes it's a close friend, sometimes it's a family member, sometimes it's a teacher, something. No offense. And it hurts us, right? And we want to punch them. Well, boys do.
Yeah.
Girls just go home and cry, right, girls? Yeah, go home and cry. Woohoo!
I definitely punched my sister.
But eventually we have to get over it, right? I am a very forgiving person.
Not.
I am very forgiving, very, can you think?
Oh, stop it. No one cares.
I don't have humbleness.
He's like, clap for me.
Come on, clap for me. No, I am. I forgive like a lot of things. It's just not worth it. It's so dumb to have a grudge. Like grudges, honestly, I think in my history of my life, which is 33 years, grudges are held on by, I want to say the right word, immature people. Right? Because have you ever met like somebody in the grocery store or something? They're like, "Yeah, man, that stupid, whatever," blah. And you're just like, "Well, this dude's an idiot." That's Bob, apparently. I am. So I concur with forgiveness. I'm like, I don't need to learn about forgiveness, but it's a good thing to learn. It really is. It's hard to obtain if you don't have it. It's easy to do when you do have it. It's kind of like that with a lot of things, but there has to be a way, right? There has to be a way you can obtain forgiveness if you don't have it. So, what if there really was a way for you to forgive and move on? How would you get to that point, right? That's what we're going to talk about a little bit. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Bible. Is that okay? Okay. The Bible. Okay, in the Bible, there's a guy, and the guy's name is Paul. We talk about Paul a lot because he wrote most of the books in the New Testament. Not all of them, but most of them. Okay? And, look at that. Anybody say that? Thessalonica. I don't know how to say it.
That's like a woman's.
It's not like that's Americanized. It's not even. It's probably like Yashalonia or something like that in Middle Eastern talk. It's probably not Thessalonica.
It's Thessalonica.
Thessalonica. So, for standard purposes, I will say Thessalonica because Nika. Thessalonians is the book, Thessalonians. So we're going to stick with Thessalonica, okay? So Paul was writing a book to the Thessalonians that lived there. We'll just say Tess. Short, Tess. They live in Tess, okay? Okay, Tess. And they were being persecuted. Does anybody know what persecution is? Sort of. Yes. What is it, Noah?
I'll strip off of a guess, but I guess it's mistreatment of people because of their beliefs.
It's mistreatment of just people, not mistreatment of unjust people, right? It's not punishment for doing something wrong. They didn't do anything wrong, so it's persecution because they've done nothing wrong. Okay? And so, these peoples in Tess were being persecuted. So, this is what Paul wrote to them to encourage them. Now, Paul got kicked out of Thessalonica, and he wrote them when he got back to where he was going. So, it says, make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong, but always strive to do what is good for each other and for everyone else. Now, that's tough because that means in all situations, because it says always strive to do what is good for each other. Not like, oh, you offended me by the way you said that to your friend. No, it means like the people that directly hate you in your life, you are supposed to forgive them, right? That's hard. Even people who have done something catastrophically wrong in your life, right? like abuse, physical abuse or emotional abuse. If that has happened in your life, first off, I'm sorry, that is wrong for that person. But it's good that you're here because we are going to teach you how to forgive somebody, okay? So when you don't forgive, it only hurts you, okay? Now, there's an old saying, unforgiveness, right, is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get hurt.
Perfectly logical.
Perfectly logical. Has anybody ever seen The Princess Bride? You remember the poison scene? I think of that every time. Inconceivable! Every time. I can't. Every time I hear that, like it's like drinking poison, I'm like, you fool, you fell for the classic blunder. That's all I think of. If you haven't seen, it's a great 80s movie. I recommend it, but with your parents.
Totally watch it.
Watch it with your parents. It's a great movie. It's called The Princess Bride. It is hilarious. Okay. Now, like I said, shh. If you are, so let's go intense. Let's say you have been physically harmed at your house by a parent or an aunt or guardian or whatever. You holding on to that grudge against them only hurts you because that person did that to you with zero remorse, right? They don't care. If they did whatever they did to you, they're not going to feel bad because they did it because they were already at a bad part of their life to get to the point where they would be okay with doing that or whatever it was. Okay? So, it takes time, okay? So, forgiveness takes more than a moment, okay? Takes more than a moment. That means it's longer than just being like, well, I think I'll forgive them now. No, it takes longer than that. It takes years. It's not something you just like, oh, okay. I mean, it could be, but it's probably not. Especially if the wound is very, very tough wound, right? If it's a very, very tough wound, it's not something like you're just going to be, okay, I'm done with this. And it may be. Maybe God will bless you with that type of forgiveness. But so anyway. All right, so we have a guest. What we're going to do.
He ain't gonna fit in those.
He's got to put these shoes on. They're Kara shoes, and they're size 8s. What size do you wear? 11?
Probably.
Huh?
Probably, yeah.
They're probably 12 and a half, 13.
I've never, probably, yeah.
Okay. So, here's the idea. Come on up here and have a seat. It's going to be great. This is the idea. Go ahead. You can try to put one on.
I'm gonna break these shoes.
So, no, yeah, well, you might. It's okay. They're probably from TJ Maxx or something cheap.
I love to do
So,
that.
Yeah, we all have cheap shoes.
how's that working? Not, is it?
You're gonna look great in those.
Okay. So,
If you get them on, you're not gonna know.
all right. So that's good enough. Stand up and show and walk around. See how it feels. Yeah, come on. Please show it off. Come on, show it off. There you go. Look at that. Look at them things.
Yeah.
So you're good. You can sit there. Everybody give them a round of applause. So the idea is his foot's obviously bigger than that shoe, right? So we're going to say his foot represents the unforgiveness, right? The foot represents life. I mean, the shoe represents life. His foot represents unforgiveness. And when you try to stuff that big old clodhopper into your life, you can go have a seat. Thank you. When you try to stuff that big old clodhopper into your life, it doesn't work. And all it does is cause problems. Because if he was trying to walk around like that, like looking all doofy, it would cause problems. But for Kara, they just fit fine. But that's the idea, is when you have that in your life, it creates bad vibes. That's the bestest description I can give you. Bestest. It creates bad vibes. It hurts nobody but yourself, right? And I mean, Paul said it. You're like, forgive them. It's almost like, if you think of it like Jesus, a lot of times I think, if somebody does you wrong or something, you just kind of think of Jesus on the cross. Like, Lord, help me forgive them as you have forgiven them, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know that they're in this sin. Even though the sin was directly, placed on me, their sin made me hurt. Forgive them because they didn't know what they were doing, because they're in their sin. Now we get this representation from Jesus on the cross. He's literally dying on a cross, an innocent person, and he says, Lord, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing, right? Because they're in their sin. But he's dying for their sin, so it's a weird, okay, so he's dying for their sin. He has the authority and power to say that. But that's the way we have to think. What would Jesus say? What would Jesus do? We should make a bracelet or something out of that.
What would
WWJD or?
I think it'll be huge.
Huge. Okay. So when you carry that guilt and that shame from whatever happened, it just hurts you, right? You have to approach the footstep of forgiveness. You have to go and stand in front of it and face it, that you have to forgive this person, or even forgive yourself if it's something that maybe you done inadvertently and didn't realize you hurt somebody, and forgive yourself for doing it. That's another thing. Okay. So yeah, it's a process. It takes a while, but there's healing in it. Okay, there's healing in forgiving somebody about something they did in your life. Like, there's freedom in that. There really is. And a lot of times it's ourselves, forgiving ourselves. So, yeah, we have to, you have to think of it like the poison, right? Like drinking the poison, expecting somebody else to get hurt. That's really what it is, because that person doesn't care, okay? That person doesn't care what they did to you 5, 10, 15 years in your life, whatever. They don't care. They've probably honestly forgotten about it. But it's created a wound in your life that needs to be addressed. And the best way to address it is read the Bible. Find out what the Bible says about it. It says forgive them. It doesn't say, oh, you'll forgive them, and the next day you'll be totally fine. No, it just says forgive them, okay? So some ways we can understand how to be better forgivers. We've got three points. The first one says, be honest about how you feel. If you want to murder them, you have to be honest, right? Because murder is not a great option, right? It's worst option. Even though I know some people that have had things that happen in their life, I was like, wow, I would totally murder that person, without a doubt. And inadvertently, that person that did it ended up in a ditch, almost dead. True story. Don't mess with Southerners. Okay? Number 2. Oh, yeah, but you have to do the good deed. If you're going to almost kill them, call the ambulance for them as they're in the ditch, okay? Number 2, remember everyone is worthy of forgiveness. Ouch! That one hurts, doesn't it? Everyone is worthy of forgiveness. That one hurts bad, doesn't it? Shoo, buddy. That's a good one. And number 3, choose to move on. See, this is where drug addicts don't get it right. They choose that they want to be better, but they don't choose to move on, right? They choose like, well, I want to like get free from drugs, and then they don't choose to move on from drugs. Okay? They don't choose to forgive somebody, right? It's a daily basis. You have to choose to forgive that person. And number 4, repeat. Eat, sleep, repeat. Be honest, remember, and choose. BRC. Okay? Now, as we go into small groups, this is what I would like you to talk about. What is one thing you have had a hard time moving on from? Now, I want to preface this because this can be an intense subject. The reality is there's a lot of hurt people out there. Hurt people. Now, what we are going to create is a safe place in your small group, and everybody needs to be respectful. If someone opens up about something in small group that obviously is very personal and intense, I want everybody to take it serious, right? Because they're opening up. If somebody like starts joking, you're out, okay? And the small group leaders will regulate that, okay? And if you don't want to come out about something in front of your peers, then make sure you come to a leader afterwards and say, hey, I'd really like to talk about this. I really want to forgive this person. I want to do this. But I just didn't want to tell everybody. That's fine. I totally get that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if somebody does choose to, everybody in that small group needs to be respectful of that, because you might not be going through the same thing, but that might be the biggest hurdle in that person's life right now, and they need to get over it. So everybody needs to be respectful, okay? I'm sure the boys will probably just end up punching each other or something, but if somebody does choose that they need to bring something out, I want you guys to be respectful, because if Bob tells me that y'all were acting up and that y'all weren't being serious, you're out of here and we're telling your parents, okay? So I want everybody to take this serious, because, and it might not, you might just be like, oh, everybody's great. Nobody has any grudges. I have a hard time moving on from this, That's fine. That's great. But it brings the opportunity for someone to. So I want it to be a safe place, and I want everybody to respect what is said in the small group, and don't go blabbing other people's business, because it's not your business. It's the Lord's business, and they're telling it in front of you and the Lord. And you are a gossip if you go and tell somebody else, and you don't want to hear what Jesus says about gossips. I'll give you a hint. Sometimes they don't make it into the kingdom of heaven. Okay? So be careful how you tell other people about other people's business, because I can throw you some verses out there that have a pretty stark message about gossiping. Okay? Good?